Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is a very somber day. A great Buckeye has passed, Tom Adelberg, who many of you know from Twitter, one of the kindest, most generous members of the Scoop family, a guy that proudly wore Buckeye Scoop gear constantly and would show me wearing his gear, the hats, the shirts. He bought all the merchandise we put on. He'd wear it proudly, has passed on, one of the greatest Buckeyes of all time. Tom, to your wife and your family, our condolences from Buckeye Scoop. Again, one of the greatest people, a guy that I texted with and called constantly, signed his friends up for Buckeye Scoop. I just want to give our condolences from Buckeye Scoop. Again, Tom Adelsberg is an angel, and we are so saddened by his loss. So I just wanted to express our condolences from Buckeye Scoop. He was a great member of the Scoop family. Tom, it will not be the same without you this season. And to your family, we give you our condolences at Buckeye Scoop. As always, we appreciate your support of the channel. We're going to do a great show tonight in Tom's honor. He's a great friend. If you guys enjoy this content, the Orlando Pace interview was a blast. Again, thanks for the great feedback on that. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. We have huge news on Michigan. Their players have a 30-day window to enter the transfer portal. Anthony Schlegel is back in the Woody Hayes, ready to roll. He's got a short-term contract to fill in, so that's great news for the Buckeyes. And, you know, again, we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about, Michigan scandal stuff. So we're going to get into it right now with Nevada Buck. Again, get the super chats fired up. We appreciate you guys again for all your support. Nevada got some information this afternoon. It's very interesting. Jim Harbaugh obviously is off to the Los Angeles Chargers. That is something that you had before Christmas. So people that pay attention to the show had a chance to bet on that, as you did. And you got it at, I believe, plus 350, and you laid a lot of money on it. And congratulations on cashing that ticket. But with Michigan and the impending doom that's coming with these sanctions, we got some interesting feedback regarding transfer portal and some of their stars potentially snooping around to see if they could land somewhere soft like Columbus. What did you find out about Michigan and some of their players potentially entering the transfer portal?
Well, as you said, you know, when a coach leaves, there's a 30-day window for players to potentially enter. We've seen what's happened with Alabama. We've seen what's happened with Washington and across the landscape. Well, with Michigan and Harbaugh leaving, you know, it kind of opened up the option for some of the Michigan players to explore the portal and transferring and seeing what kind of opportunities are out there. And, you know, as of yesterday, as we were talking about it, it was more kind of pie in the sky, theoretical, what could be. And to be honest with you, I really didn't think a whole heck of a lot would come from it. But I always say I reserve the right to change my mind based upon new information. And the information that I got today through the agent community, and you know, our agent contacts are really good. They've been the ones that have been spot on this stuff, and we've been nailing this stuff left and right. Is there's 4 names from Michigan that are nosing around looking for potential transfer portal action. First one would be Colston Loveland, the marvelous tight end out of Michigan. Second would be Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman. Third would be Mason Graham, defensive lineman. And fourth would be Will Johnson, the cornerback. So 4 very big names for Michigan. 4 interesting opportunities for Ohio State, some of them more interesting than others. But you know, things just got spicy here in terms of the portal, the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, and potential activities. So it's a big one. I'd say keep your eyes open because this could get exciting in no time. And these would be 4 names you really should pay attention to.
Yeah, and Colston Loveland is the best tight end in the country. I think he is a spectacular player. He would be one of those guys where if we got him, it would be marvelous just for the community. For you know, again, if there's a weakness on our offense, you know, maybe a tackle, but tight end is pretty thin. Jelani Thurman has got to step up and have a big spring. But this kid's a flat out superstar. He's a top 15 pick next year in the draft. And again, like, you know, he's from Idaho. So he's not born and raised blue, go blue. He's not from Detroit or he's not from Ann Arbor or whatever. And, we just hired Bill O'Brien, who coached, in my opinion, the greatest tight end in NFL history, in Rob Gronkowski. So, Bill O'Brien knows how to use a tight end, how to develop a tight end. He knows what a good tight end looks like. And, this kid, of all the kids, is a kid this would be like a Caleb Downs situation where you just empty the clip and try to get as much as you can for this kid. Because I think this kid is a superstar. Again, I was just like you yesterday. Like no way, Will Johnson, some of these guys. But after today, it changed. There was some really compelling information that came out. I've got really good sources on this. And again, Ohio State is, they're doing diligence on these guys. And there's a shot that, a lot of these guys, they don't want to stick around for, to watch Rome burn, because that's what's about to happen. And, it's like, Jim Harbaugh didn't stick around. Jim Harbaugh is the most Michigan human being on earth. Played for Schembechler, won a championship, as Michigan could get, and he left. So that raises that, the strength coach is taking off. The D coordinator is taking off. Jay Harbaugh is taking off. Like, there's not going to be many guys left. So if you're one of these players, do you want your last memory of Michigan going 15-0, or do you want it to be this aberration of a season that's about to happen? Because it feels like this season could turn into like our 2011 Ohio State season where we went 6-7. Tressel gets fired, Terrell Pryor's kicked off the team, goes in the supplemental draft, and then the season was just an absolute bomb. It was a bomb. It was awful. So if kids could have avoided that, they probably would have. Thank God we didn't have the portal back then. But I think this kid, of all the kids, is the kid that I would be the most focused on. I think he is a superstar. We have a couple super chats already. Michael Schaefer, thank you for the 5. Did you say yesterday that a new player missed 2 meetings already? If so, who was it? Nevada, we did say there was a little bit of a skipperoo. I don't know, Nevada.
Hold on. Not missed, late.
Late, yes, late. So,
late.
Yeah,
so,
better late than never, right?
Better late than never. And sometimes things can just be up in the air and you haven't quite figured out the way around the campus and you're late for meetings, but not missed, but late.
And you don't know the land of the campus yet, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Adam Klein, thank you for the 5. Would OSU players accept UM players into the Brotherhood given the cheating allegations? Would it possibly upset team chemistry? That is a great question. I'll just speak on it from my behalf, just because I had the opportunity my rookie year. I was on the Miami Dolphins. Jake Long was the first overall pick, obviously a fabulous player at Michigan, number 1 overall pick in the draft. And Chad Henne was their 2nd round pick. So I was actually teammates with Jake Long and Chad Henne, who, when you're just a regular college kid and you play at Ohio State and they're just regular college kids that play at Michigan, you kind of like automatically hate them. You don't really know them, but you do hate them, and you don't like them, whatever. So when we all of a sudden were teammates together, now granted, Jake was a fantastic player, he was a Pro Bowler as a rookie, which is incredible. And Chad, he just literally just retired last year, played like 15 years in the league. But those guys were great guys. And again, this is not me getting soft or whatever. Oh, Kirk, you got to hate all the Michigan guys, whatever. But like, they were great guys. And again, if those guys would have transferred to Ohio State, I'd have loved to play with them, because they were tough. They were good dudes. They were smart. They worked really hard. Like, I loved playing with Jake Long. I thought he was one of the best one of the greatest guys I've ever been around. Super generous. Now, you got to remember, Jake Long's rookie year signing bonus was $60 million. So when we'd go out to dinner at all of the nice places in Miami, there's a lot of times he grabbed the tab, which was amazing, because I was not making no $60 million. I had a great year, but it wasn't no Jake Long $60 million year. So, I think if you're a great player, like if I'm one of these guys, like if I'm Will Howard, or if I'm, any of these guys, if I'm Trey Henderson and Colson Loveland shows up, I'm like, dude, welcome to the show. Thank God. We have the best tight end in the nation to go with our 2 best running backs, the best receiver, really good quarterback. Because unless you're scared, great begets great. Like you want to have great players around you. It makes your life easier. And if it weakens Michigan, it's like a double whammy. I'd love to raid their roster because then you automatically, it's kind of like in the NFL, if the Browns sign a really good player from the Steelers, you weaken your biggest rival. Like why would you not want to do that? So that's my opinion. Nevada, I'd love your take on it. But again, I think it's case by case. There's some Michigan guys that are douchebags, but there's some that are like good dudes. So I think it's kind of a case by case thing. But your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, my immediate reaction is, heck no, don't want those guys. But, I remember the whole Bourne situation. I mean, when when that went down, we all were excited that he came to Ohio State, turned out to be a terrific player. And then his two brothers, Zach comes and he's kind of iconic. And Jacoby comes, and maybe we don't win the national championship if you don't have Jacoby Bourne at center. So, like, I think these things work out the way they're supposed to. And from my standpoint, I just want the best team possible. I want to make it unfair. I want to have all the good players on my team, and I want you to have none of the good players on your team. And I want to beat you 75-0. And I don't want it to be close. I don't want close games. I know we've had this discussion before about people want Michigan to be good, and they want the great games. Man, I want every game to be 99-0. I want to be drinking cocoa by halftime and not having any stress in my life about it. So anything that makes Ohio State better and makes our rival worse, I'm all about that. So I'd vote yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah, and again, especially when they're guys that fill a void. We pick up that good D tackle, we pick up Colson Lemon. Those are two glaring holes where we need more players, and those guys are both like all-American level players. They're not like fill-ins. They're not backups at Ole Miss. That is a all-American tight end and an all-American D tackle. And again, I just think that some of these guys, they're not, they want to go out with that 15-0. I would. Weston, thank you for the 10, brother. Appreciate you for Kirk in Nevada. What's your stance on pursuing Michigan transfers in terms of locker room culture? Also, was awesome to hang out with you, with Zach and the crew. Yogis, yeah, that was a great day. Zach's show was fantastic. I appreciate all the people that showed up to support Zach. Again, it was fun meeting a lot of you guys because I know a lot of you guys watch Zach's show and also watch our show, so we appreciate that. But again, I love to support Zach and Chris when they do something like that. Yogi's is a great place. So I appreciate you, my man. Again, I think it's a case by case. Like Justin Bourne was a kid that was, very much in Ohio. He wanted to come to Ohio State. His dad got pressure from Bo Schembechler, which again, I totally understand. But Justin was a guy that fit in great here. I coached him, his last year in 2010. Zach, obviously, it was great. Jacoby was great. So, I think that sometimes it's over. It just, like I said, it's case by case. Because there's guys that I played with at Ohio State that I hated, like I couldn't stand. And then there's guys that I played with in the NFL for Michigan that I really liked. So, again, just because you're on the same team doesn't mean, it's not all kumbaya. As much as you wish it was, like there's, hell, you look at NBA teams where there's 12 guys on the team and there's 3 guys that hate each other and they end up having to trade guys. That's just kind of how sports is and whatever. But I don't know. I think if the kid's a fit and he's a great player, then it's easy. Now, if he's a douchebag and a great player, then you got to have a little conversation. And that's where, guys like Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni and the position coaches have to dig into these kids. Because, like we went after Caleb Downs and, obviously you recruited that kid. And that's the thing you have to remember is a lot of these kids that we potentially go after, we've had some sort of contact in recruiting, or we might know the high school coach, or, there's some sort of a tie where you could get some background and be able to be ready to go. So in my opinion, I think it's just auditing the kid and making sure you get like, a good firm feeling. Because again, the culture of the locker room is delicate, but if a kid's a great player, I can put up with a lot as a teammate. Because again, they don't all have to be. If he's a turd but he gets 15 sacks, like I can deal with that. If he's a turd and he sucks, get him off the roster, have him transfer out. But that's just my opinion. Sean, thank you for the 20. I don't want any of UM's trash players. I knew I'd get some of this. Let them go to Northwestern and Minnesota where they belong. Bad enough I have to watch Dax Hill and DJ Turner run the Bengals secondary. Don't need to see UM trash on another Ohio team. Well, again, I don't think anybody hated Justin Bourne. I thought everybody got a kick out of Justin coming here and, and doing a good job and being. I mean, he's an All Big Ten player and really good player. So I don't know. Like I think it. I mean, I would love to have Colson Loveland on our roster. I mean, because I think that he's just a dynamic, freaky athlete. But Nevada, again, we've talked about this. Your thoughts, because again, and that's a great point, Sean, is where you talk about how Michigan guys get drafted by the Bengals or the Browns. The Browns took Braylon Edwards. They've taken Michigan guys in the past. Obviously the Bengals take them, and you kind of just have to grin and bear it and enjoy it. Chris Perry was a Bengal. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? I mean, would you prefer that Michigan's players go to lesser Big Ten teams or an SEC school? Because the other thing is, if Colson Loveland goes to Georgia to take Brock Bowers' spot, then you might see him in the playoffs. And I'd rather have him on our team than Georgia, but that's just my opinion. But your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm completely transparent and transactional. So for me, it's just about anything that makes Ohio State better. I mean, look, I'm a Packers fan, and two of my favorite Packers of all time were Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson. And those are two people that I couldn't have despised more. I despise Desmond Howard now to this day, but I loved him when they were Packers and I loved them when they were productive. So I'm the wrong person to ask on this because I can switch sides on this issue really quickly depending on what uniforms they put on. But I understand the sentiment completely. I 100% understand the sentiment. But I think when I take a step back and a little dispassionate about it, I just want the Buckeyes to be a dominant juggernaut in 2024 and beyond. And whatever we have to do to achieve that within the rules, I want to do. And this, the portal's within the rules. Guys are going to be up and play. I think it's something, for the positions of need. And that's why, to me, Grant, Graham, and Loveland make a lot of sense. Johnson, great defensive back. Don't think we need him given our defensive back. So to me, he's less attractive. But those other guys, I said, bring them on.
Yeah, and again, I golfed with Charles Woodson, and I suck at golf. I hate golf. It's the most boring sport in the world. But I played around with Charles Woodson up at the Lake Club, and I told him, I was like, look, you putting your rose in the mouth and going to the Rose Bowl and beating Ohio State, in 2007, when we played up there, I was like, man, if we win this game, I can't wait to eat a rose and walk off the field with a rose in my mouth. And I did. And I told him, I said, I took that photo just because of you. And he was dying laughing. He was a great dude, smoked some cigars with him. And again, did I hate him? Yeah, because he's a Michigan guy. He beat Ohio State or whatever. But, you got to respect a guy like that. And you couldn't even imagine if we had him in the secondary with Sean Springs and Antoine Winfield and kind of that era, because, good God, that would have been the most insane defense ever. But it is what it is. Again, I'm very much anti-Michigan, but I'm also very pro whatever we can do to make Ohio State completely unfair. I'm all about that life, because again, there's some people that are anti-Bama, but I mean, Caleb Downs shows up and I am about that life. Kevin McQuaid, thank you for the 10. With Air being a lefty and the rest of our quarterbacks being right-handers, how does that impact the O-line blocking? And does it impact how many actual snaps Air gets, in future practice? Shouts to Carlucci. That is a great question. I don't think it is a huge impact just because obviously, you kind of flip the right tackle is now the blindside guy. They make a big deal about the left tackle being the blindside guy. But I think in modern college football and in really high-level NFL play, the right tackle has to be able to pass block too. Lane Johnson might be the best tackle in the NFL, and he's a right tackle, not a left tackle. And, when you're the right tackle in you're playing the 49ers, you got to block Nick Bosa. So it ain't like you're getting a day off being the right tackle. So I don't think it's a huge deal. Maybe there's some play calling stuff. I think that the biggest aspect of the game that affects is the few times that we do sprint outs. We don't do a ton of nakeds, but if we do sprint outs, generally you want to sprint out to the side of if you're on the left hash, you'd rather sprint to the right so that the quarterback can carry the ball and he doesn't have to flip his hips to make the throw. So I think it might flip that, but we don't do a lot of sprint out. It's just an easier throw. If you're running something with a bubble, sometimes it's easier to throw it to the side of the dominant hand. Michigan, if they're on the right hash back in the day, when they had Henny and those guys, he'd catch the ball, and if they're playing off on Braylon, he'd just catch it and throw it to him. Or he'd be under center and just take a step and just wing it out there. So generally, he's throwing it to his left as a righty. But that's not a huge part of our offense. And I don't think it'll make a huge difference. Nevada, do you have anything to add on a lefty versus a righty in our offense?
Well, it's also interesting, underrated thing just about how the ball spins. The ball spins out of the hand of a lefty as opposed to a righty. I've always found that kind of interesting for the wide receivers in terms of catching the ball, seeing the ball into their hands. I think that's an underrated point. But no, I don't think there's a big difference. But like you said, it does affect your play calling in terms of what direction you're going on stuff because some of the stuff's easier for the righty than the lefty and vice versa. But I don't think it'll make a big difference. And, for error, I think it'll be a nice change up sometimes and maybe do some things that confuse the defense. So I think that can help as well.
Well, and something that's it's a great point you make about the spin is like Bill Belichick, who's probably the greatest coach who's ever lived, loves taking left-footed punters because of the spin of the ball and how it can. It's something this is totally different than most punt returners. They're not used to the spin of the ball coming off of a left foot, which again, it's weird. And when you're just like us, guys that sit in the stands and eat peanuts and drink beer, you don't think about stuff like that. But like when you're Bill Belichick and you see a guy muff a bunch of punts because the spin is awkward and they don't see it very often, like kind of makes sense. But again, that's a great point about the spin. Great question, Kevin. Again, that's why I love doing this stuff because your guys' questions are incredible. Kenyatta Wells, thank you for the 5. I really love the name Kenyatta. My wife and I are trying to figure out a name. We have all of our kids are K's, so we're trying to figure out a name right now. So I'm going to toss her Kenyatta, and I'm sure she'll say no, but that is a sweet name. Tony Stop, thanks for the 5. Will stronger NIL make LJ a younger, better recruiter? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it helped us get JT2 and Malone back. It helped us get Tyleek back. It helped us get Jack back. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what could ever make you a better coach and make you happier than getting those 3 guys back for a final year. You got basically 3 of the best probably 3 of the best 10 D linemen in the country in your room. I think that makes life pretty fun. Makes you a little younger. But yeah, of course, like NIL, the way that it's humming right now, and the way that we're able to retain guys on the roster and keep guys from transferring in the transfer portal, it all is cumulative to making this thing into a monster. And again, that's why, with the Michigan stuff, yesterday, me and Nevada are like, no way, not going to happen, whatever. Today, we get some new info, and all of a sudden it's like, don't be surprised if there's an exodus now. 30-day window. Harbaugh's gone. These coaches are leaving. I know Sherrod Moore's going to take the job just because, it's a great opportunity. He's a young guy. He's like 37 years old. But, he's going to be, on the Titanic right now with the lights turning off and the thing breaking in half and up in the air and the band's playing as it's going. Like, that's where they're at right now. And Harbaugh's, instead of getting in the lifeboat, he got in like another Titanic and is drifting over to Los Angeles, which is what the smart guys do. I don't know, Nevada. Do you think that NIL will make LJ a little younger and stronger?
Yeah, well, look, when we're good at NIL, it will, and when we're bad at NIL, we won't. But right now, we're good at NIL, so it's definitely it definitely helps him do his job and takes away an objection because that's really what Larry's the biggest thing has just been kind of countering the objections because what can you say to him? What you haven't you haven't turned guys into high draft picks. You can no look at all these guys that I have drafted. Well, what about your NIL program? Well, now Ohio State doesn't take a backseat to anybody, and I think it makes every coach's job better, and certainly makes Larry's life a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, I think again, like if you have like we got Matt Gariani in from Indiana, and it's like he shows up, and the foundation gets a massive package together to bring in Caleb Downs. And now magically he's got the best safety in the entire country in his room, and the kid's happy as a clam. His dad's great. His brother plays for the Colts. Like, and again, like I love the Caleb Downs acquisition because I think it sends shockwaves throughout college football that, if kids are of his caliber, jump into the portal, hey, these guys take care of you now. And and that kid is happy with his decision. He's already working out. He looks like a mute. Him and JJ Smith are the 2 best looking 18-year-old prospects that there's some people the Woody Hayes have ever seen because they're just that physically gifted. So, and I know he's 19 now, but I mean, like I'm talking about when they were coming in as freshmen. I mean, those guys are difference makers. So, I love it because I think it's a lot of cachet for the program, a lot of cachet for the foundation, and if some of these guys like Colston Loveland jump in, I mean, you're at least going to call Ohio State and say, hey, is there anything you got any sort of package for me? Because these guys will have a package for some of those guys, like Colston Loveland, like that guy's going to get something now. And again, I don't know who's competing with us because we smoked. I got news for you guys. We smoked Georgia in the NIL game. So, some of you guys hate NIL. NIL is my favorite thing in the world because we got Caleb Downs in Ohio State colors for the next 2 seasons. So, God bless NIL and all the legislation because I love it. Let's see. Kenyatta Wells again. Thank you for the 5. If you have a question, throw that in the chat. I'll try to find that. Tony Turley, who is going to be in our Hall of Fame along with Tora. Tora's always up in here. Appreciate you guys. Of course, we should take every player from the cheaters up north. I agree. If they come implicit in their transfer, is a commit to helping us win. You can't fake it in Division I Big Ten football. Again, that's just like, it's just like in the NFL. Like if a guy goes from the Steelers to the Browns or Browns to the Steelers, like that's the big rivalry in the NFL. It's one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL. And, guys have, Orpheus Roy made that move. There's been a bunch of guys that have made that move. And once you switch colors, like you're loyal to the colors you're in and the guys you're going to battle with. So I agree with it. Tony, thank you so much for the generosity in the 50. Again, I appreciate you so much. Nevada, your thoughts? Because again, I think once you switch jerseys, man, who cares? Let's go win a ring. Let's go get developed. Because again, if I'm Colston Loveland and I'm looking at Ohio State's offense and I'm like, man, they're never going to double team me. They got a Mecca. They got Trey. They got J.J. Smith. Bill O'Brien's calling the plays. Bill O'Brien coached Gronkowski. I mean, I'm like, let's go. Will Howard's a stud. Again, Julian Sayin. I mean, this is a team that is a rocket ship right now, and I want to jump on it. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, look, the players know who the players are, and the player in college football right now, there is no hotter program than Ohio State. And then when you combine that with, if you're a kid that's playing in the Midwest, or you're not from the Deep South, then it's absolutely Ohio State. And even if you're from the Deep South, I mean, we're pulling McLaughlin, we're pulling Caleb Downs. After we pulled Caleb Downs, it really kind of eliminates the doubt that we could pull anybody. At that point, like there's nothing off the table for Ohio State in 2024, and there's nobody that's out of our reach. There's nobody that's an impossible pull, because what was bigger than pulling that guy from Alabama? No one. So
Nope.
I think these players know if they want to go win next year, if winning's important to them, if they want to play against the best, if they want to be part, everybody wants to be part of the super team. Well, let me tell you what, the super team's playing in Columbus, Ohio next year, and they could use the tight end. So Colston, come on down.
Yeah, and again, he's from Idaho. He's not like he didn't grow up like wearing maize and blue. He's not Aiden Hutchinson or something like that. So again, like for me, if I'm that kid and I got 1 year left before I go pro and become a millionaire, I'm looking at Ohio State. I'm looking at Georgia. Georgia had Brock Bowers, superstar, and Ohio State's got the best offense in the country next year. Bill O'Brien, Ryan Day, 2 of the greatest minds in college football history calling plays. Best tailback room maybe in Ohio State history. Receiver room is about to be insane. So like, I don't know. Like, I mean, and the thing is, a lot of these kids, when they're coming at the end of their high school career, they play in like what used to be the Army All-American game, now it's just the All-American game. They play in the Under Armour game. And, when you're on one of those all-star teams and it's if your team wins and you dominate, like that's a really good feeling. I played on a couple, I played in the Big 33, the North-South game. Our Big 33 team got voted the best Big 33 team of all time. We won like 38-7. We killed Pennsylvania when we played them. And I remember like, this is fun. When everybody on your team is really good and you just dominate somebody, that is fun. And that's where Ohio State is on the cusp of being. And again, like, I love it. It's great for business. You guys love showing up to hear about it. And it's just like every day right now is like Christmas until the foot hits the ball in September. So, why not go get a little bit more Christmas? Eric Kraus, thank you for the 5. In your opinion, looking ahead, what does our QB room look like at the start of the season? That's a great question. I'm going to be ultra optimistic and say Will Howard backed up by Devin Brown. Now, that is the hardest part of the depth chart. Then I'll go Lincoln, and then I'll go Julian Saint, then I'll go Air. If you ask Kirk, I want you to bet your house, I'd probably go Will, and then Devin hits the portal, and then you've got Julian Saint right behind him. With Lincoln and Julian as the backup. But again, that's just my opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see Devin stick it out. I think Devin's fantastic. I'd like to see Devin battle with Will Howard. Because we've seen quarterbacks go down in these seasons. This past year, Devin got hurt. Kyle was dinged up with a bad ankle. So you need depth at the position, just because that's how the season. And this season's a long season. But what's your opinion on that, Nevada? Again, I know you're going to go optimism over everything, but what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's just so tough. I really hate projecting on kids to who might transfer or who might not do that. I just think it's tough when you put that handle on a kid, and I haven't heard anything. What I can tell you is I'm pretty close to these situations. I haven't heard anything from any of the kids that indicates to me that they're transferring. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that we're going into with a fully loaded clip of quarterbacks, and in that case, like I said, it's a pretty it's a pretty standard depth chart in terms of Will, Devin, Lincoln, just because they've been here, and then Julian and Air. So I until I get other information, I'm just going to assume that all five of those guys are going to be part of the camp come fall.
Yeah, that's what I hope for. I hope for it. And again, I think that some of it is like, with the quarterback thing, I just think you're only as faithful as your options. Like, I think that's the big thing is like, you got to remember, like, Kyle McCord was third team All Big Ten, 11-1 as a starter, and he landed at a terrible Syracuse program. Like, terrible. Fired their coach, got a new guy in there. They don't have a very tough schedule this year, but it's like, it wasn't like he landed at USC or Texas or Florida State or Georgia or wherever. Like, he landed at Syracuse. He lost 50-0 in the bowl game or whatever it was. So again, if I'm Devin and a lot of these guys, like, I think you got to look before you leap if you jump in that portal. But I'd love for him to stick and compete with Will Howard. And how he could beat out Will Howard. That'd be great. Like, may the best man win. Obviously, Will Howard's the guy that Ryan handpicked, but kind of like what may the best man win. Tyler Kersey, thank you, brother. Kirk, if we're getting Graham, Grant, Loveland, that would make OSU unstoppable this year. I would love that. Again, I would take those guys with open arms and give them like big old Ohio State gear. They could put their Michigan stuff on the player's trunk and sell it all. But I just because those guys are positions of need. A tight end and a D tackle is about as much as we need. So again, I like depth. I like, improving the rooms. So, Nevada, if we could get those three, I'd take them all, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I drive up there to Ann Arbor to pick them up. We do like a car caravan or something like that. We take like your giant Raptor and we could fill it up with Red Bull and like Wendy's and just drive up there and pick them up, throw everything in the truck, and I could have little Kirk in there. He could harass them all the way back down.
We'd have to load the truck bed down with cash money, and I'm not talking singles because these guys are going to be expensive. But hey, we're getting these guys, and again, people that don't like NIL. Well, when Caleb Downs gets a pick six, you guys are gonna be like, NIL is my favorite thing of all time. So we
are damn time.
And dude, I'm telling you, like getting Caleb Downs, that is the ultimate feather in the cap for Ryan Day. I love this. Brian, I appreciate you tuning in all the time. He's our diehard Michigan fan. Thanks for the deuce. Sharon about to build a dynasty. We'll see, man. It's going to be ugly up there now. It's going to be a cold winter in Ann Arbor, especially when they take that trophy out of your cold, dead hands. District Fire, thank you for the deuce. Appreciate you. If you have a question, toss that in there. Ohio 7715, thank you for the 50, brother. Appreciate you. You are going to be in the Hall of Fame because you've been going crazy. Thank you for your generosity. What's up, guys? I hope you all had a good day. You guys are the best at what you do, and I appreciate you. Scoop family, OHIO. Nevada, you're a big IO guy. Like, I like to do the OH. You like to do the IO. You're a big IO guy. Your shout out to Ohio 7715. Appreciate you, brother.
I don't think I've ever initiated. I don't think I've ever OH'd anybody.
Oh, you're that guy.
No, it's just not intuitive to me. I'm IO. I respond. I'm IO. IO.
Yeah.
IO.
Um, I
IO.
get it. I get it, my man.
I'm giving it to you, man. I'm giving it to you.
Dude, you did good. I appreciate you, Ohio. Thank you, brother. District Fire, thank you for the 10. This is a great question. Does a big NIL deal guy need a scholarship paid? Can we go beyond 85 scholarships in essence? Yes, you can. Now, do they do it? Like if Caleb Downs was to come here and they offer him a big check, like a huge check, you know, the thing you're probably not going to do with Caleb is say, hey, by the way, you got to pay your tuition out of your check. You don't do that with a superstar. But if there's a guy who is a compelling circumstance, and we have a guy like that, there is a good chance that you could have him walk on and just pay his scholarship. And we've done that. So essentially, you can go from 85 to 86, 87, 90 scholarships and pay his way. Because again, sometimes the roster gets a little heavy. You might have an opportunity. Again, like, you know, you don't know who's going to hit the portal. You know, and if all of a sudden there's some superstars that hit the portal and you got to convert a guy on scholarship to being a walk-on, you know, really nothing changes. You still get to eat training table. You still get to travel. You got the same gear. You know, it says someone else is paying your tuition. So nothing changes except for you technically are a walk-on. So, you know, if they told me when I was playing, Kirk, we're going to give you an NIL deal. So, but you're going to be a walk-on, but nothing literally will change except we're going to write you a big check. I'd be like, that's fine. I'll walk on all day. And I'll be the walk-on that's driving a nice car and eating, you know, 2 Mexican pizzas instead of 1 at Taco Bell and living the dream. So again, that is something that we're getting very sophisticated about is how to carry a heavier roster. Because, you know, NFL teams do this kind of stuff all the time where they'll rotate guys on practice squad on the weekends. You get 10 guys on practice squad, but teams will cut 5 guys on a Friday and then sign 5 guys on a Saturday and then cut them on Monday. So you kind of have like this extra flow of bodies that are stuck in your city that you're paying. And sometimes it works out. Those guys develop and they become good players. So, you know, I think that any way you can become more sophisticated with running your organization and enhancing your roster, I think it's just smart business, honestly, because it is a game of attrition and it is a game where people are, you know, I mean, you need a deep, talented roster, especially with this playoff format. I mean, God bless. I mean, you're playing 15 games, man. You need guys that are upright and talented and ready to go. Nick Elliott, thank you for the 10. How do potential extra 4 games with playoffs affect our player health rotation through the season? How many QBs do you see this year? And how does potentially playing in Michigan 3 times a year affect the rivalry? You guys seriously bring the best questions. Like, seriously, that is such a fantastic question, Nick. Thank you so much for this. Nevada, I'm going to let you answer it. Again, the potential 4 games, how does it affect the rotation? And how does potentially playing Michigan 3 times a year affect the rivalry? I'm going to let you take it because I talked for a hot minute.
Yeah, no, we've talked about this, you know, ad nauseum, but the Big Ten championship game has changed to 1-2, that's a profound change. That is not a small change because that game goes from being, oh, well, it's the Big Ten championship game to being that game's going to be a heck of a game every single year. And then with the expanded playoff, it's going to be more like the NFL. The team that's hot at the end, the team that the championship is not going to go for prolonged season excellence. It's going to be who is healthy and who is hot at the end of the year and can get that way going into the playoff. For Ohio State, look, in years gone by when we won the championship, we've had good seasons. We've almost undoubtedly had to go to the backup quarterback. I would say with this season where you're going to 15 games potentially or 14 games and the high quality of the games, it would not surprise me at all that at some point that you need the third quarterback. So I think depth is going to be paramount. And that's why, you know, to bring this full circle back to our initial conversation about guys being available in the portal potentially from Michigan, can you have enough good players? In my view, you can't. I think depth is going to win out. And it's never been more important that it's going to be in 2024. So let's load the wagon with as many great players as we possibly can.
I totally agree. Karis Washington, thank you for the news. Director's chair with the words on set. Uh, I like that. I don't know what that means, but that sounds cool. The Korich, thanks for the deuce. Any word on Jason Taylor? No word on that. Again, that's the guy. Again, is it going to be a D line coach that is kind of like the segue for Larry Johnson's, send off to the big shuffleboard court in the sky, or is it going to be James Laurinaitis? That is the question with the 10th coach. Again, Ryan Day doesn't have to make a decision right now because James is already on the road recruiting. So once you sign that waiver, there's not really a big rush, and it feels like a tryout for James to see how he does on the road, what kind of feedback he gets, how ambitious and you guys got to understand, like, James Laurinaitis is an absolute killer. Like, there isn't a guy in the universe that I would bet on being a superstar and coaching more than James Laurinaitis. I mean, that guy, he does everything the right way. He's a tireless worker. He's just, he's like the poltergeist. I mean, he is, when he hits the road, he's going to be out there making names. And again, he is a name. He's an electric personality, and I'm just really excited about everything that he's doing right now. So, but I hope he becomes a linebacker coach for Ohio State. I hope he develops into being a coordinator eventually for Ohio State and potentially even a head coach. But Jason Taylor, it's interesting because what I've been told is that he is like oil and water when it comes to Mario Cristobal, who's his current head coach. He's the D-line coach for the Miami Hurricanes. Fantastic recruiter, but he was a longtime Dolphin, played like a year, maybe 1 or 2 years with the Redskins, came back to Miami. But his family, his wife is from Miami. She's got a business in Miami. So it's a little less transient when you're Jason Taylor and you've been in Miami for basically your entire career, minus a year or two. And then all of a sudden, hey, let's move to Ohio where it's rainy and snowy and terrible and whatever. So I don't know. Like, I think Jason Taylor makes a lot of sense. He's from Pennsylvania. He played at Akron, so he's not completely unfamiliar with this neck of the woods. But like, Miami's pretty nice, and he's got a good job at Miami. It's not like he's at a back school. He's with the Hurricanes, and they got Justin Scott from us, and they got some really good players. And I'd like to get Jason just to get Justin Scott back, but that's just my opinion. Nevada, any thoughts on Jason Taylor versus James Laurinaitis?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, look, I said this on the board. I think Ryan Day is a greedy man, and I say that in the best possible sense of the word greed. It's like Gordon Gekko in the original Wall Street, the greed is good thing. So I think he wants to find a way to get Jason Taylor and James Laurinaitis on staff. And one path to that would be you get Jason Taylor on, you do the two defensive line things as kind of the heir apparent while Larry's going to be kind of sent off into the happy hunting grounds next year, and you bump up James and give him some sort of super analyst position this year that kind of placates him for 12 more months while this transition takes part. I'm not sure that's doable, but is it completely impossible? No, it kind of fits with the fact pattern of what's kind of gone on up till now. And if you threw the bag at James and you let him know, look, this is just for 12 more months, would he hang on? Maybe. I don't know if he would, but maybe he would. And I know Ryan covets recruiting above all else. And if you had Jason Taylor and you had James Laurinaitis on your defensive staff, it would be quite a formidable recruiting combination. And Ryan's shooting for the moon right now, so why not? I think that's a possible scenario. I think there's a reason they haven't named James that 10th coach just yet. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But I think it's going to be resolved very shortly.
Yeah, I think that, and I think James will do a great job. Again, I think that it'll be interesting. But James isn't a spring chicken now; he's 37. So I mean, Gerard Mayo just got named the head coach of the Patriots. He's the exact same age as James Laurinaitis. So James is ready to get going and get to progressing. And until you're a position coach, you don't really get to sign your name to a room, even if you're the GA and you're technically the head of the linebackers or whatever. Like, you want a room that you have to sign your name to, and that's your film. So that's it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with James. But I'm rooting for him. Tony, stop. Thanks for the deuce. Where are we on a punter? I believe we got an Australian kid in, but I'm not sure. Again, punter is something I genuinely don't think about very often. I think Jesse Mirko lost his mind, but he probably wants to get a master's degree from Vanderbilt, which I get. Vanderbilt's a great school, but God, that's the worst team in the Big Ten. But I guess if you're a punter, that's good because that means you're going to be punting 20 times a game. Nevada, you have anything on the punter? I really don't care about the punter, but I wish that we could get a good kicker because the preseason All-American kicker is from Miami of Ohio. So I'd love to throw some money at him just because, God bless, like our kicking has sucked in the last few years.
Well, like I said, punting, place kicking, long snapping never matter until they matter. So yeah, I don't have who's going to be the punter, but I can dig on that and find out who that's going to be because they need one. And look, when we talk about the super teams, let's be unfair at every position. Let's get the best punter out there. Let's get the best place kicker out there. And punting can save your bacon, man. You have those games where you're booming those punts and you're doing. I mean, look, Burka was unbelievable against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. He's probably our certainly the special teams player, one of our best 3 players on the field. But I'll find out who the next guy is going to be. I'll probably have that for the next show.
Yeah, I'm literally looking on the roster right now just to see if there is. I mean, we have to have a punter on the roster, but I just it shocks me that the preseason ESPN All-American punter is at Miami of Ohio, and again, like we haven't had a great kicker in a hot minute. Again, and I'm not trying to dog out Noah Ruggles and some of these guys, but at Ohio State we should be able to hit a 50-yarder. Should. Michigan somehow has Jake Moody, who's in the NFL, and the kid they had this year could bang 50-yarders. But, again, I just, maybe you make James Laurinaitis the official, place kicker recruiter because, again, like I played with Mike Nugent. Mike Nugent had a cannon, and, he hit a 55-yarder against Marshall, and it's like that needs to be the standard because, like, I can't imagine – a kicker, now some kickers are temperamental and they don't want to play in this, in the cold and the wind. So we got a kid named Joe McGuire, who's a freshman from Australia, and he is actually from Pro Kick, which is a really well-known program. So I would guess, God, he's 235, so he's a little fat to be a punter, but hey, we love these Australian kids because they're like 26 years old when they come over here. But Joe McGuire would be my guess, 6'2" from Melbourne, Australia. He was a freshman last year, so I think he would be the next man up. Because again, like Pro Kick in Australia is a really well-known program, and that's the route we go. Like we don't really take high school punters anymore because you get these Australian kids that are 26 years old. They play pro rugby, and they have cannons for legs, and they do that rugby punt that goes end over end, and that's kind of what's in vogue right now. Karis Washington, thank you for the deuce. Appreciate you being a Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you, brother. Gio did it. Thank you for the 5. Let's be honest. Will Howard did not come here to battle anyone. I agree. He came here to be the starting quarterback of Ohio State to win the Natty and up his draft stock. I agree. And again, they're paying this kid like he's coming in to be the starter. So again, I think that something that has happened in the last year with NIL with Ohio State is, we've shifted a lot of this money to either pay superstars like J.J. Smith, roster retention like JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Ty Leak, Trey Henderson, or the thing that's getting really excited for the best collective is to get a kid like Will Howard, get Caleb Downs, because those are proven commodities at the college level. And again, that is attractive because you're getting a kid that can play college, he's a star. And they really are working hard to vet these guys because we had some spectacular misses. Like Victor Cutler is the guy that we paid multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to, and when he showed up, he stunk. So we're trying to avoid wasting money on guys like that. And so the vetting process is much deeper. The position coaches got to sign off on these guys now because you bring in a kid and you spend funds because like this isn't monopoly money, it's real money, and the kid can't play. That's a red letter on your name. So you better evaluate these guys better because we don't need to be paying kids that stink. And another thing that's I think going to be a fundamental shift is a lot of these kids they're pocket watchers. They see one guy get paid, so they got to get paid and whatever. And some of these guys haven't done anything yet, and they're not really that high on the depth chart, or they've had an opportunity to play. And maybe they're not as good as their star rankings. So all of a sudden, I think you're going to have, this shift where you wait to pay kids until after the spring portal closes. Because again, these guys work really hard to raise money for, for roster management. And you don't want to be signing a check for a kid today, and then he walks out the door during April, after the April portal window opens, because that's just stupid. But that's happened. So I think that they're getting a little bit more sophisticated and a little more, because, and I also knew that you knew there were going to be mistakes made, and you see Florida State get crushed by it. And we've been really good at it because we work with the university, we work with Mark Pantoni and Ryan Day and the position coaches. And, it's all hand in hand, and it all goes through compliance. So, there's no bloody mess because you screwed something up or you didn't do something correctly. So again, we're really good at NIL now, which is great. And it's exciting because again, for you guys and for us, like, we want to watch great football players want to come here. And when Caleb Downs comes here, it's like LeBron going to the Heat. I mean, it is shockwaves throughout college football, and it's huge for the brand of Ohio State. Nevada, your thoughts on that? Will Howard did not come here to battle anyone. I agree with that.
Yeah, there was a question about who was going to be the starter. Like there's like some drama, and no, I mean, look, Devin can compete, but Will Howard's going to be the starter, and unless he just completely soils himself, he'll be the starter. He'll be the number one guy, and that's certainly what Ohio State's expected as well. Is that Will Howard's going to be the man come fall.
Yeah, totally agree. Poohbeard 12, thoughts on, thank you for the 10. Appreciate you being a Scoop Ultra member as well. Thoughts on Schleg's joining strength and conditioning. I love it, but it seems like it's either a short-term fix because somebody is out. It seems like it's a 3-month contract. Maybe it's an audition. I don't know, but it's good to have Schleg's back in the building. He was a great teammate of mine. He's always been a great dude. He had that spell in Jacksonville where he was actually the head coach for a year because Urban hired the Doyle guy from Iowa and had to fire him after like 2 days. So Schleg's actually went down there as the assistant and then became the head guy for a year. But Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, liked him so much that, when he fired Urban, he actually gave Schlegel an extra year on his contract. Because Schlegel only had that 1 year, but he paid him for a full extra year just because he's like, look, you got caught up in this. You did a lot of good work, so I'm going to pay you. So, but again, like Schleg's, he's done The Difference for a while. He does a podcast now, but I think it's really it's good that he's back in the building. Scum is saying their players aren't portaling because of their culture, but also Harbaugh is signing that contract any day, and the NCAA won't come down on them. I don't buy that. I mean, does Alabama not have a good culture? Does Georgia not have a good culture? Does Ohio State? I mean, everybody loses people in the portal, guys. I mean, so, I don't think that the culture thing, people can say that stuff, but like Alabama's got a great culture, and they've got a really good coach there now. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, like if Ryan Day would have left and gone to the Patriots, Kalen DeBoer would have been the first guy I would have wanted. And instead he goes to Bama and takes Saban's spot, which is, one of the 5 best jobs in college football. So I don't think their culture is terrible, but Caleb Downs took off and Caden Proctor took off. Sometimes it's just a business decision. Sometimes kids are homesick. Sometimes they just want to do better. Like I said, the whole time leading up to Caleb Downs portaling and coming here, if I'm Caleb Downs and I'm the best defensive player maybe in the entire country, and I watch Washington get shredded by Texas and Washington get shredded by Michigan in that defense, I'm like, man, there is no way I'm sitting for this staff. I got to go to somewhere great. And he met Jim Knowles, and Caleb Downs' dad loved Jim Knowles. So people that think Jim Knowles can't recruit, you're just an idiot. I mean, he got Caleb Downs here. Now, granted, a lot of help with NIL, Matt Uriani, Ryan Day, the whole shebang, but Jim Knowles did work. So you better respect that. Nevada, your thought on Schleg's being back, and again, this is the funniest part. And Pooh, you are one of the greatest posters on here. This is unintentionally one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen on this podcast. When you say the Scum beat is saying their players aren't portaling, the Scum beat is the dumbest beat in the history of beats. Like they've been so wrong about everything in the last 4 months. And like, we don't even cover Michigan, and Nevada slayed these guys, destroyed these guys. They were saying Harbaugh's in town, Harbaugh's signing, nothing's going to happen. I mean, they've been wrong about everything. So if they're saying that, then we're probably going to get their whole team if that's where they're saying. But Nevada, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Michigan beat has been a pretty clear
Ooh,
contrarian
God.
indicator of anything. So whatever they're saying, just look to the
Do the
opposite.
opposite.
But
Yes.
yeah, but I mean, who's more Wolverine than Jim Harbaugh? He's like Mr. Wolverine, and he's gone. So like, how can you say to any of the players, "Oh, you guys, the culture's so strong you can't leave"? Oh, by the way, we're having a moving party for Jim on Saturday. Can you pick up? It's going to be a few wicker things and a chair and a banner, and it'll only take a couple hours. But I mean, he's out of town. So how do you guys expect that none of the players are going to go? I'm just telling you, we're not picking names out of a hat. We're not making things up or something.
No.
Everything that we've told you about Michigan has happened. All I'm telling you is these are the guys that are reaching out. So will it happen? I don't know. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to happen, but I guarantee you with 100% certainty they're reaching out. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, because the Michigan beat said it, man. I would load up on the other side of that because they've been spectacularly wrong this time. And I mean, go look back. There's receipts on all this stuff. Go look back on any of it, and you'll see they don't know what they're talking about. So
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
yeah, and again, like it's I don't know. Like I mean, but I'm glad Schlegels is back. But God, their beat is. I mean, they've just been like awful. Like I mean, I don't know how you could trust anything that they think or say. Because they've just. I mean, it was like what 2 days ago. Chris Bayless said that Jim Harbaugh was back in Ann Arbor, and then like an hour later, he signs a deal with the Chargers. I mean, I don't know what the timestamps were, but like somebody posted that on Twitter, and I'm like, how can you be that wrong? I mean, but whatever. Luke Dojo, thanks for the 5. Kirk, why didn't 3-year starter Steve Raring not make it in the league? He wasn't a turd like that, right? Sorry if I'm deviating from the current conversation. I mean, Steve had a nice career. Like, I mean, he never made any awards, I don't think, unless he might have made honorable mention All Big Ten like my last year, but he never made any like major awards. Like, he was a good player. Like I said, he's a 3-year starter. Can't take anything away from that. But, he always had severe weight problems, and again, like in the league, you have to be able to run. You have to be able to be athletic. And there's some guys that, they can get it under control. Like Orlando Brown, who plays for the Bengals now, was a guy that was real heavy and he had the worst combine in history, but he was 6'9" and great athleticism and got in shape. And, he's been a multiple time Pro Bowler in the league. But Steve wasn't that athletic, and when you're heavy, it's just like a death knell to your career, and again, like Steve was a good teammate, but again, you can't have that kind of weight problem. Cause again, like, he's the kind of guy that needed Urban Meyer. If he had Urban and Mickey, like he would have been doing cardio 7 days a week, cause like when those guys showed up and we had fat guys, they were doing cardio 7 days a week. I mean, they didn't have a choice. Like we got Chris Carter probably ran enough miles to circle the globe like 10 times. I mean, he was always on the treadmill. I mean, they ran him about to death because he was so fat, and that's Chris Carter. This is not Chris Carter, number 2, the receiver. This is Chris Carter, the fat offensive guard that we had to move to D tackle because he couldn't remember the plays. So, again, guys that have weight problems, it's on them. I mean, we had a guy that went home for the weekend and he gained like 25 pounds over Thanksgiving, and I don't even know how that's possible. And I love to eat, and I can drink some beer and all that, but it's like I don't know how you can gain 25 pounds in 4 days. But again, it happened. But again, I hope Steve's doing well. I haven't seen him in a long time, but yeah, it's just when you're in the league, man, you have to be able to run and you have to be in shape, and Steve unfortunately wasn't either of those. Sergio Osama, thank you for the 10. Nevada, can you give me some points on the level 2 violations of FSU and their punishment from the NCAA? Need some details when explaining Michigan's impending doom to a couple of buddies. Thank you. And this is something that we always point to is similar level accusations, similar level, level 2, level 1. What's it mean? Nevada, I'll let you have the floor at this because you've been the expert because you've had so many sources on this. But your thoughts on Michigan's violations versus Florida State's?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it's really as basic as this. I mean, FSU was hit with level 2 violations for a coach, level 2 violations for the the institution, and it was a long list of suspensions and reductions in activity, and I mean it went on and on and on and on and on. For Michigan, they're already facing a level 1 infraction for Harbaugh for lying to the NCAA under the one investigation, and now they're being hit under the repeat offender status for a lack of institutional control on the whole advanced scouting, electronic surveillance, counter stallions caper, multi-year caper. So you're looking at multiple level 1 sanctions as opposed to multiple level 2 sanctions at FSU. When you see how much stuff went down for FSU, and then you kind of compare it to what potentially could happen for Michigan, it's kind of stunning. I mean, you saw Tennessee got hit with 18 level 1s, but they were all kind of the same thing. They were basically 18 different instances of paying guys money in Chick-fil-A bags. You're talking about with the Michigan thing, you're talking about 35 different instances of going to schools and conducting advanced scouting in violation of the rules. I just don't even know where to start. It's the biggest on-field cheating scandal in the history of college football, for sure, probably for any level of football. And I think the punishments will be commensurate with that. And that's why I think Michigan's going down and badly. And as a point, and now that Harbaugh's out of town, man, it makes it worse for Michigan, because if Harbaugh was there, they could punish Harbaugh. But now Harbaugh's not there, they got to punish Michigan. So it's like, if you're a Michigan fan, you're like, damn, Jim, you did all this, and now you skated on out of town, and now the NCAA is coming, and they want their pound of flesh, and they're going to get it from somebody. And if Harbaugh's not there to get it, boy, it's going to be triply hard on Michigan. And it sucks to be you guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is, like, you'd think that the coach would want to sit there and take his lumps, but I mean, he said, "Screw you guys, I'm out. I'm going to go make a massive 5-year deal." And literally, he went to the other side of the country. So I mean, he knew what it is. So that's why, like, if I'm one of these players, I'm like, it would be like if I was an active player, when Tress was going through his stuff, and he decided to go coach the Browns and make, $100 million or whatever. I'd be sitting there, and then we're going to get hammered for it. And again, what Tress did was nothing compared to what Jim Harbaugh did and what Connor Stallions did. So, when people say, "Oh, these kids would never leave," I'm like, dude, like, their head coach, who is the king of Michigan, played for Bo Schembechler, all that. Like, I mean, he just took off and said, "See you guys, it's been real." And I can't blame him. I mean, honestly, like, dude, go live in LA and make a fortune and coach Justin Herbert. Like, I'd do it in a heartbeat, instead of getting beaten to death by sanctions and, this monstrous team that Ryan Day is assembling right now. Like, yeah, I'd get out of Dodge too. Cause I mean, Ryan's coming for blood this year, man. And I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Sergio Sama, thanks for the deuce. Make sure on it. Cry again. I'll make the hats. I like that. That's really good. I'm going to jump into the film studio. It is winter workout season. So we're going to break down some of the stuff that these guys are doing. You got Mick in here. Something interesting is these guys are all logo-less. So this tells me that Ryan and Mick are telling these guys they have to go earn their gear. So a lot of times these guys are working out. They got some sweet Ohio State gear on. None of these guys are wearing any Ohio State stuff. So this kind of harkens back to Urban, in 2012 when he said nobody's allowed to wear Ohio State logos. He was crazy about it. He's like, you guys aren't allowed to shower in the facility. You're not allowed in the locker room. Nothing. You guys have to earn everything. So, like, imagine, like, you do one of these crazy workouts and you're sweating like a hog, and then you got to go get in your car and drive home and shower. Like, that's what it was like when Urban got there in 12. So I think they're back to that. Now, I don't know if they're making them, like, get in their cars and shower, but, like, again, these guys all have, there's not a single Ohio State logo anywhere. So, again, I think they're back to earning their stripes, which I like. The whole thing is win now. Tough love is dead. So, they're doing their little medicine ball stuff. But again, I think that they're trying to get these guys to earn their stripes. Again, we lost 2 straight. So, I mean, there's gotta be a reset here. There's gotta be hey, guys, we gotta get back to earning everything. You see G Scott, you see these guys hitting the squats and doing their stuff and Mick's doing thing. You see Ennis there. So it's fun. They do these little challenges at the end to see who can hold these things for the longest. Little grip activity. So this is kind of like a mental toughness thing where they put an offensive guy versus a defensive guy, or an O lineman versus a D lineman, and the losing team has to do 100 push-ups, whatever. But it's cool. Like I said, I used to love winter workouts because you really get to put the screws to the kids because you don't have to play a game until September. So now's when you can kind of turn it up a little bit. Here, you see them doing the grip stuff again. Like I said, they do these competitive things where you got to hold the 100, and I mean that's like a 95, and that's like a 95. So you go against each other, and but this is just developing toughness, mental toughness. There's Jack. He's got a little bit of a goatee thing going on. There's Lathan. But this is kind of where the sausage is made. Again, a lot of people are like, how are teams built? Well, this is where it's built. I mean, it's miserable. It sucks. But this is where guys kind of come together and grind. Because again, these guys don't want to go out like some bums and lose to Michigan and lose a Cotton Bowl and hear about how they suck from everybody. So they're kind of setting a new tone, and I love it. Like, again, this was like my favorite time of the year because it's gritty, it's grimy, there's no limelight, and these guys get after it. Your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because like I said, I love winter conditioning.
Well, yeah, no, I look when I see the guys holding the things that are kind of competing to see who's going to drop it first or whatever. It reminds me of like the Mr. Beast thing where you put your hand on the car and we see like the last person to have their hand on the car or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm thinking like I'd be really good at that. I think I'd be really good at that. I think
Oh
but
God.
it's all about mental toughness right there, and I'd have to do it. But like see, I think I'd be able to ever to outlast you on that because I think you'd get hungry. You'd have to leave because you'd
Oh,
get hungry at some point.
we used to do that. We'd do hangs too, where you'd hang from the pull-up bar, and like again, I had a pretty bad shoulder surgery, so like I mean, I was not good at hanging because it would be like excruciating pain, and I'm like, is my shoulder gonna get worse from this dumb hanging thing? Because again, like I don't mind doing it, but it's like I don't need to like hang from a bar or hold a weight to prove that I'm tough. It just means that like you've got strong fingers. That's all it means. But again, I like it because again, it's competitive. At this time of the year, you have to find, these guys going to be competitive in every sprint, every lift, they measure everything. They put on these little catapult vests that look like sports bras, and, you can kind of see these guys grinding. But again, this is a time where you put the screws to the freshmen, the newcomers, you kind of teach them the culture and the way of what Ohio State does and what Mick does. And the thing about Mickey has a gift where, uh, like when you're a strength coach, like to be a real strength coach, you're really like the minister of culture. You're the guy that has to determine the culture of the team, and it's really it's a tough fine line to have players love you, but you also have to be like up their hind end. And Mickey's like he's the best I've ever seen at it. Because some guys they just want to be homies. Like I mean, I had a strength coach that was nothing. He was just a homie. Like he loved being homies with the players, and he couldn't really once you become friends with the players and a homie, then you can't really get that next level out of them because you're always kind of like a homie. Whereas, if you're like a drill instructor, you gotta, there's a balance. And Mickey's fantastic at it. And again, I love Coach Mick. I mean, Coach Mick's the guy that, he bought me 200-pound dumbbells, which was awesome. Because when Urban showed up, man, they were spending money like drunken sailors. I got a new laptop. I got 200-pound dumbbells. It was great. But like, those guys were spending money to redo the whole weight room. And I was like, why don't you get some of this and get some of this? And he's like, all right, I got money for that. I'll get that. See if you can really lift it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll be lifting that. But I love Mick. And this is like the best time of the year because, these freshmen that enroll early can get up to speed with how we do everything. So that way they can hit the ground running. Cause, back in the olden days, we used to have, when we were on quarters, we had like Taylor Decker showed up for spring football. He wasn't here for winter, and he had to walk right onto the practice field like the first day that he was here. And that's hard. But like with this, these guys can get to know the coaches, get to know the players, get to know the expectations. And this is kind of where it's made, guys. Like I'm telling you, like people they show up to the shoe in September and they see the team run out, but this is where it starts. And that's why I love showing that video and seeing those things because it's always fun to see how the guys look, what they're doing, but it's really it's a good deal. Well, Nevada, I think we could wrap this. Again, we appreciate you guys. A lot of great super chats. Appreciate you guys. Help us out. Any final thoughts on Michigan? Us pillaging the roster would be delicious. That'd be the highlight of. I mean, the only thing that'd be better than Caleb Downs is getting Colson Loveland because you're taking him directly from Michigan. But Caleb Downs is a better player, obviously. But Bama. I don't hate Bama the way I hate Michigan. So, but your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean Michigan's on sale right now, and we're just kind of going through the racks and trying to decide what we're gonna play our coupons on. But it's happening, and that's something. Keep an eye on this because there could be some activity here sooner than later. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we will wrap this show up. Again, appreciate you guys so much for kicking it with us. Thank you for your support. I guys hope you guys enjoyed the Orlando Pace episode. Orlando was fantastic. I love interviewing these guys. We're going to get some more former players on here. If you guys have requests for former players, put those down in the comments. I'd love to see who you'd like to see me interview. I've got a lot of guys that are really interested in it, especially post the Orlando show. I sent it out to a lot of guys and they want to jump on. So I'm excited about that. But again, I appreciate you guys and your patronage of this channel so much. If you guys enjoy this content, click that little like button before you leave. Those are humongous for our channel. They help us grow the channel, helps promote the video. So thank you for that. Also, click the subscribe button to this page if you enjoy our content. We love cranking it out for you guys. We love kicking it with you guys. You guys are so supportive. It's amazing. So thank you for that. And also, if you like our live shows, click the little alert bell. You get a little alert on your phone or on your iPad or on your TV when we go live, so you guys never miss a live show. Again, the show isn't the same without you guys, so we appreciate you guys showing up and showing out. Again, it's just so fun to work with you guys. And thank you for the fantastic questions tonight. Again, it makes the show just amazing to do every night. So thank you. With that being said, I'm about to jump on BuckeyesCoop.com. If you guys are not members of BuckeyesCoop.com, it's the #1 Ohio State community in existence. You should check it out. Our message board is absolutely going crazy right now. It's been a blast to be on it. We have a really fun community. So talk about Ohio State football 24 hours a day. It is just incredible, and I just love being on it. So I'd love for you guys to join us if you're not members of it, but we appreciate you guys so much. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.